What is going on, guys, and welcome to ForTheFans with me, Jack, and my co-host Ben. On today's show, we're going to be taking a look at the Enquiries game, as well as all the games that occurred yesterday, before taking a look forward to the games that are going to be coming your way today. Let's get straight into this.
What's going on, guys? How's it going? And welcome to the ForTheFans podcast with me, your special guest, Jake.
Hey, what are you doing here? This is my bit. This is my bit. Right.
I thought the guest did this.
No, you've gone way out of line. Welcome to ForTheFans. Me, Ben, co-host Jack. And I'm here. And our guest today, Jake, otherwise known as Caveani. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, we're good. Oh, we never asked that. That's nice. How am I? I'm fantastic.
I was good, and then you stole Ben's bit, and now I'm outraged.
Shall we talk about what happened yesterday? Lots went on.
Well, Jake needs to explain who he is. People are just, who's this Jake chap? Why is he taking over? What's he doing on the podcast?
All right, go on then, Jake.
So my name's Jake, or my YouTube name's Caveani, sort of YouTuber or streamer. I know Jack and Benji wanted me to mention the charity stream that I'm doing in the summer, which is a week-long charity live stream for Balls to Cancer, where we just play a variety of games to entertain people. We're getting a few YouTubers and streamers coming as well, so hopefully Jack and Ben won't mind putting the link to that in the description below on YouTube. You can go and check that out as well.
Excellent. Right, now can we crack on?
We can.
Now Jake said his bit. Right, good. Shall we start with Colombia 3, Greece 0?
Why not? I want to say this was expected, but going into the game, you looked at the Colombia starting lineup and it was, well, where's Martinez? Where's Falcao? Obviously, we knew Falcao was injured, but there were a few question marks about the Colombia kind of attack, and whilst I don't feel like they were 100% kind of, backed and kind of look sharp yesterday, I do feel as if they kind of, to get 3 goals against Greece, it was a good performance in the attacking third by them.
I agree. Jake, what did you make of, did you see that you saw the game, I assume?
I seen very bits of it, yeah.
What did you make of Greece defensively? Because they're obviously quite a defensive team. A lot of people were saying that they're going to be hard to break down. Colombia found it relatively easy. Yeah,
I was going to say that. For a team that sort of bases themselves around a solid defence, they didn't look too great. And even going forward, they didn't look fantastic either. There just didn't seem to be a cutting edge. It seemed to be a very slow build-up, which is obviously easier for Colombia to defend against because it's just helping them to get back into position quicker.
Yeah, Colombia found it... I was disappointed that Greece didn't put up a bit more of a fight. Like they're not exactly renowned for their flowing attacking football, but when they're providing nothing, it's just easier for teams like Colombia, who are very counter-attacking, very physical, very strong in all areas. It's easy for them to pick teams off. Jack, did you enjoy the game, I guess?
It was a pretty good game. Obviously, 3-0 was pretty convincing all in all. I would have liked to have seen Greece kind of have a bit more of a go of it. I kind of feel as if Greece, whilst they did have their odd chances, they never really had clear-cut chances. It was very often shots from range. It says a lot about their attack when Samaras was probably one of the better players in the final third for them. They just kind of, me and you were talking about it as it was happening, and they kind of they lacked that killer pass. They lacked someone who was kind of the link-up play. A lot of the play for them was kind of a hoof ball to a few big men up top who would then hold up the play for one another, and there just wasn't enough flair about them. There wasn't enough excitement, pace coming from Greece. Obviously, you don't really expect that because they are such a defensive team, but they just needed something different there, and as you said, it was very easy for Colombia to kind of defend against and then break with some pace and really knock the ball around well and just kind of drag the Greece defence here, there and everywhere.
Indeed. So that sees them top the group because, as we saw at the late kickoff, the very late kickoff, the early morning kickoff, Ivory Coast 2, your boys, Jack, Japan 1.
I was gutted. I'm not
going to lie, I fell asleep. Jake?
I fell asleep at half time, so I've seen bits of the first half.
So we thought, we went to bed, Jack, thinking you were golden. What happened?
It all went horribly wrong, didn't it? Obviously, first off, Honda drove it into the back of the net. You see what I did there? That was a terrible pun. Anyway, it was a good goal for Japan in the first half, and they went into the break 1-0 up. Ivory Coast, as you guys saw the first half, you'll know they created chances, but they weren't very kind of clear-cut chances. There was a few good saves by the keeper. But all in all, it was looking comfortable for Japan. Ivory Coast didn't look particularly kind of potent in the final third, and then come the second half, it kind of just, Japan lost their kind of rigidness. They lost the discipline that they had in the midfield. They were kind of lining up with a 4-5-1. in the first half and kind of looking to break from midfield, with kind of either Honda or Kagawa or just one of the central midfielders kind of drifting slightly forward, kind of ahead to make it a 4-4-1-1. And by the end of the kind of second half, they just lost that shape in midfield completely. Drogba came on for Ivory Coast to really change the game, change the dynamics, just because Japan just couldn't simply handle the likes of Bony, Gervinho, Drogba. Just in the final half, there was just too many people for them to deal with.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, you backed Japan. I didn't back Japan. I backed Ivory Coast. We both backed Colombia. Jake, what do you think about this group then? How do you see it like lining up towards the end of it?
I think it's anyone's really. There's a few teams that could go through. I think Japan probably from the first half performance can take a lot of positives from the game. They probably should have been a couple more up at half time, which maybe would have seen out the game. Yeah. I think Colombia looked really good yesterday against Greece, especially like I say going forward. They were able to break down Greece with relative ease. So yeah, there's a few teams in there, and obviously Ivory Coast got some very good players going forward, like say Gervinho, Touré, Bony, and Drogba as well. So it's going to be an interesting group, but I'm probably going to go with the top two as it is at the minute.
Yeah. Jack, you were dismayed by the man of the match.
Can I just... I'm having a rant here because I'm not happy. I'm not happy one bit. So FIFA man of the match for this game was Yaya Touré. I went and I was like, this isn't right. So I went on all the kind of websites where you can get stats and whatever. He was definitely not man of the match. And this brings me on to FIFA's system for man of the match this World Cup. Because in the 65th minute of a game, about 70% of the way through they go, right, you can vote for your man of the match online. And when you have Ivory Coast v Japan, most of the Western world just say, well, I only know Yaya Touré and I know Didier Drogba. And Drogba's coming on off the bench, so I've got to vote for Yaya. So this whole voting system, like how Neymar got man of the match in the first game,
2 goals though.
It's beyond me. He got a goal for... I'm sorry, Oscar was the better player on the pitch that game. I don't know who the other man of the matches were. I don't really want to know who they were because they were probably wrong. Well, they were wrong. I'm having a rant.
This
I'm
is
not
fine.
happy.
So what's your system? How are we deciding man of the matches?
Well, it's kind of apparent who's the better player on the pitch. Yaya Touré, if you watched the game, he was very quiet. Yamaguchi made such a great job of chasing him back in the centre mid position. He's such a pacey defensive player for Japan. He was stuck on the number 16 with that role to really track Touré. Touré completed like 42 passes all game, and I think there were only 4 that went forward in the final third.
Right, I've got the answer. The psychic turtle.
Right, how are we doing this then?
He's predicting man of the match before the game.
Alright, let's do that then. Right, someone get onto that. Have you heard there's so many psychic animals now?
Well, they were jumping on
I'm getting tweets every day. Oh, there's a psychic kangaroo in Australia. I'm not joking, there actually is. But it's kind of a case of... It just seems like a ploy to get people in at this point. There's only one Paul the Octopus as far as I'm concerned. I'm even convinced at this point the turtle might not be psychic.
No.
He'd probably pick Yaya Touré too.
Too soon to suggest that, and I'm not having it. My word. Right, shall we... so that's that group dealt with. That's Group C, I believe. Yeah? Right,
yes,
so
indeed.
Group D kicked off, and it was a bit of a shock, Jake. You know,
a little bit, yeah.
Costa Rica 3, Uruguay 1. You saw a bit of the game from a small television in a pub.
Yep.
What went wrong for Uruguay? What went right for Costa Rica?
Well, from what I could see, Costa Rica just took their chances. It's about being clinical. Uruguay went winning it up for a Caveani penalty. Sorry, Cavani. Yeah. And yeah, they just didn't seem to capitalise on that. And Costa Rica came out in the second half, scored 2 quick goals, and then sealed it with a really nice finish in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, Jack, what did you make of No Suarez then? It was the talking point before the game. It was the talking point during the game. You saw him warming up.
I think it was the talking point after it as well.
How much of an influence did him not being there have on Uruguay's performance?
Well, we kind of bigged up Diego Forlan a little bit, and it'd be fair to say he was pretty darn quiet in the game. He had one deflected shot which forced an insane save out of the Costa Rica keeper, scrambling back. But besides that, very quiet. Suarez was warming up at the start of the second half. There was a kind of murmurs in the stadium of, are they going to send him on? And this was when they were 1-0 up at this point. And then Uruguay ended up using their final sub with about 15 minutes left. And when people kind of realised, hang on a bit, Suarez isn't coming on. It was a bold decision to make, and ultimately it didn't pay off. Uruguay conceding in the last 10 minutes, and from then onwards they just didn't have any options kind of going forward. I felt like Cavani was a little bit off his game. with Caveani, he was a great player for Napoli, but I've always got this little bit of a question mark over him as to whether he is still the player he was at them. Obviously, he's still doing well at PSG, but that's for PSG, a team where you're built with superstars around you.
Yeah, I thought Uruguay looked nervous. They went after they were a bit shell shocked. 2 goals went in, and then they spent the whole time thinking, "Can we just bring Louis on now? Because we don't actually know what to do."
I think that his injury is a bit more serious than what they're letting on.
Yeah,
if you're 2-1 down to Costa Rica and you're not bringing him on, there's something wrong still.
Yeah, he looked like a man who was told to warm up knowing he wasn't coming on.
Yeah, and he looked like he had a little bit of a limp. I don't know if you've seen after they did the England game build-up, and he was walking through the tunnel. He still looked like he wasn't moving as freely as he should be.
Yeah, as a Costa Rica player, I'd be loving that. No Suarez coming on. We're already 2-1 up. I'd be thinking, this is ours.
That's probably what they thought, and it showed because they went and grabbed the final goal, which killed the game off.
Yeah, so I don't want to ruin the final result in that group, but they top the group as it stands. I think it's time we look at the main event of the evening.
Can I just quickly say that the fans got it right with Campbell getting man of the match for Costa Rica. So well done. You got one right.
You're all for the FIFA man of the match now? Change the tune?
No, I'm not. Again, it's because he's an Arsenal player. Playing on loan at Olympiacos, so he's obviously getting all their votes that way.
So, England 1, Italy 2. This is going to be quite an extended chat, so if you're not up for England chat, this is the time to skip forward to the quiz or whatever it is. But yeah, let's dig in, shall we? Where do you want to start with this?
Starting lineups, where it began, was it the right decisions? What did you guys make of the starting lineup? Because it was kind of curious, I felt, playing Rooney, Welbeck, Sterling and Sturridge in the final third. I kind of feel like they're all very, very attacking players, and certainly Rooney and Welbeck, for me, should be playing higher up the pitch, if at all.
I think it was the expected lineup. I think we spoke before the game. I think it became apparent the closer the game got that both Welbeck and Sterling would play. He wasn't going to drop Rooney, and Sturridge was always going to be up top. I did wonder if he'd play Wilshere over Henderson. That was, I wasn't shocked, but I thought Wilshere had a chance of getting in. The question is, and we'll come to it towards the end, I guess, whether it's the right starting lineup for England, if it's getting the best out of the players they've got on the pitch. What did you make of it, Jake? How did you think we coped in the first half? Let's obviously this first. So.
Going forward, we looked quite dangerous. I thought that Sterling scored in the first few minutes. The pub absolutely erupted. There was beer everywhere. I got drenched, and all of a sudden, it was disallowed. It didn't go in.
Yeah, my dad did a little dance around the room, then I had to sit back down again and feel very silly.
It's embarrassing for everyone involved, I think.
Well, the BBC graphic shows a goal, it switches to the behind the goal highlight, and I'm like, it's hit the side now.
I felt like 1998 Michael Owen all over again. I was like, this is it. He's a well beater. He's Liverpool's and he's a well beater, and I'm very excited. And then within 3 seconds, I was just sat there like, okay, let's go. Okay.
Going back to the starting lineup, I'm not sure if it was the wrong lineup. I just think maybe that some of them were in the wrong positions. I'd have had Rooney just behind, because Rooney's work rate wasn't great last night getting back, and that left Leighton Baines with 2v1, which is why he wasn't getting forward as much. I see him get a lot of stick on Twitter for not doing as well, not getting forward, but he's marking 2 men because Rooney wasn't tracking back. I just feel that if Welbeck was playing on the left, I think he's got a bit more of an engine, so he would have been helping to cover a little bit more.
I agree.
Yeah, one of the things that I had a little bit of a tweet about was the fact that England were playing a very fluid system. It wasn't like Rooney was out and out on the left, kind of between Sterling, Rooney and Welbeck. They kind of drift and alternate positions. I mean, by and large, Sterling did stay out on the right, although he did kind of drift inside occasionally. But it's a case of one of you has to track back on the left. It kind of limited England's game. And the other thing was that Italy played a very compact midfield. They started, with a very kind of solid midfield. And what ended up happening was you kind of had the likes of Sterling, Welbeck and Rooney playing ahead of the Gerrard and Henderson, but then Gerrard and Henderson had 5 players around them kind of cutting out that link-up play, and the Italians between themselves kind of playing this kind of very packed midfield were very content just to kind of shut down England's play from deep when possible.
Yeah, so let's have a quick look at the goal. It started from a corner, was played inside. Pirlo with a lovely dummy, even when he's not actually touching the ball.
He doesn't even have to touch the ball to create a goal. It's meant.
Yeah, and then Marquise, it's a great finish. It's a great strike. Probably should be closed down. I don't know who we're looking at to blame there. But that put them on the line. But quickly, not long after, Sterling's on the ball, makes his way into their half, pings the ball up to Rooney. He puts in. I tell you what, we slag Rooney. What a cross that was!
Very good cross
On a sixpence, and Sturridge finished it. And he did a little dance. Did anyone else do the dance?
No, I was too busy
loving
just having
it.
beer thrown over me.
So what do we think then? Were we pleased with the goal? Is that what you want to see England do? Is that now the conventional England goal, or was that out of the
Well,
ordinary?
there was another chance in the first half that was very similar to that of the goal, where we got to the byline and put a ball in, and if anyone attacked it, it's a goal again. That seemed to be where Italy were most vulnerable, getting at them, getting to the byline and putting a ball in. I don't think we utilised that enough. So yeah, it was good to see. It was a good goal.
I think my big gripe with England was I'm very happy for us to play this attacking fast football. The big issue for us was we were playing Sturridge up front on his own, and I think across the game there were 13 crosses attempted, and that's where Italy looked weak. Only one actually made its way to the man it was intended for, and it was the goal. I kind of feel like maybe not sticking on Lambert, not having that big man to throw up late on maybe cost us a little bit, because there was space outside because of how compact Italy were in the midfield. There was space for the overlaps. I feel as if more so on the right, Baines was a little bit nervous at times. But England really they needed to get the ball in the box more and actually find a man and probe a little bit more.
It's interesting that... Okay, well, before we carry on, Gary Lewin dislocated his ankle.
I wonder why there was so much time added on at the end. It must have been for him.
Actually, that's a good point. But
there's 5 minutes added on. There wasn't that much stoppages.
There is some beautiful irony in our physio getting injured, celebrating a goal.
I noticed how it was just like the FIFA physios were coming on after that with their bibs on.
I think they were dedicated England physios, but you could tell when they ran on, our players were a bit like, Gary, you're not Gary. Where's Gary? I want Gary. And then it was a bit awkward. But I felt really sorry for Gary. Like, as Gary Lewin's taken off,
I did feel sorry for him.
He had the look of a man who was like, I did not come to Brazil for this. Which I like.
Well, I when it first panned, like the camera kind of switched to him, you kind of see a guy with an like loads of people crowded around an oxygen mask on, and you're thinking the worst. I was sat thinking, Roy's had a heart attack. He can't believe we've scored. Oh my god, what are we gonna do? And it's some guy looks like Bill Turnbull. He'll be fine.
Yeah,
he'll be fine. And he did have that face though. There was like a little stare he gave the camera as he got stretched away. That was just like, I'll be back.
I'd like to see him come back on crutches and then having to come on with crutches for the rest of the tournament, which would be great.
We should say he does a great job for England. It was just slightly ironic that you got.
It's the funniest thing that's happened this World Cup.
Yeah.
I think he was trying to do Sturridge's dance moves, and he just didn't know how extreme they were.
No, he did the dance move, and he was like, I'm going to have a spin to this. Oh, God, what have I done? That would have been great.
What actually happened? I believe he tripped over the drinks bottle.
That's funny.
He was that excited.
If that's true, that's really funny.
It gets better.
That's what I've heard. Like, it was drinks bottles that you know how you got your little cartons. He didn't give a damn. He was loving it.
So it gets to half time. Lewin's off. Should England have made a change? I saw a few people on Twitter saying that because obviously Baines was getting quite exposed in that first half. Should at that point a change have been made, or was it just a rejig, or what would you have done at half time if anything? Jake, we'll start with you.
I don't think a change. I just think maybe, like I say, move Welbeck out to the left. I think he would have given a bit more defensive cover. And the only other thing I would have done was just told him to close down the midfield a lot more, because the Italian midfield were getting so much time and space. Pirlo doesn't need a lot of time, and it was shown last night. He was still picking balls out left, right and centre, so he doesn't...
I was going to say that was how the second goal came in as well, was Pirlo. And it was really deep, but he just had time to pick out a pass.
It doesn't matter on the pitch where he is.
He's that good that he can pick the ball up wherever he is and find exactly who he wants.
Within a second.
Yeah, so people say you put someone on him, close him down. You can't. He's already done it. Yeah. And unless you've got someone sticking on him the whole time, and as people pointed out pre-game, they had Verratti, they had De Rossi, they've got players capable of doing the job Pirlo does, and that's why Italy are so difficult to stop. Yeah. So we get to the goal.
Oh, I was hoping you were going to ask me about my changes. Sorry.
Oh, what would you have done?
I would have taken off Welbeck, stuck on Lallana and switched to 4-4-2 and stuck Rooney up top with Sturridge, so he had more to aim for on the centre from crosses, but sat a little bit deeper in the midfield.
Is it actually? I can see an argument for that. It would certainly have given Johnson and Baines more cover.
Exactly. And it would have meant that we weren't getting as crowded out in midfield, and Rooney can track back and try and get Pirlo, but, have him further up the field, so if we do get the ball out wide, there is options in the middle.
Indeed. So...
Don't call me crazy.
To the goal, Balotelli beats... Was it Cahill at the back post?
Yeah.
I think Johnson followed a runner, and then Cahill was left one-on-one with Balotelli. The ball was terrific.
Yeah, but again, that's come from the left-hand side with Baines having a 2v1 situation.
Yeah, which was, as we've mentioned, a problem all night. There's a weird part of me that quite enjoys seeing Balotelli score, even when it's against England.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. It just seems like
celebration wasn't as epic this time though.
It's his job. Yeah. Why would he celebrate?
Yeah.
As he said numerous times, does a postman celebrate, Jake, when he posts his letters?
Yeah, well, he said that, and he's gone ripped his shirt off the last time he scored against us, and did a big pose. What's that about? What a hypocrite!
Well, you know.
Does a postman do that when he posts a letter? Does he take his shirt off and pose? No, he doesn't.
He might do this summer. It's well hot. So yeah,
I was going to say Candreva out on the right had a really good game for Italy. I think that was as much down to kind of maybe England giving him space. I feel as if the goal that Italy scored while Spain was left in a 2v1 was one of the few situations where he maybe pushed slightly higher up the field and got caught out for it, and I think that playing did his mind from that point onwards, kind of just not leaving the defence too exposed.
Yeah, so they go 2-1 up. England forced to make changes, bring on Barkley, Wilshere, Lallana. In that order, I think it was. Taking off, who was it? Henderson went off, Welbeck went off, and Sturridge went off.
Yeah.
I was very concerned at the fact the game didn't alter in any way, shape or form. In fact, we looked less threatening bringing those players on, which for me is a worry in later games. Would you have brought anyone different on? We mentioned Lambert earlier. Jack.
Well, the thing for me was that I feel as if Henderson and Gerrard both really in this game didn't have too much of a handle on this game. I feel as if a lot of England's kind of threat, and when England looked most dangerous was in the final third with players running at the defence. So it's a case of, do you change that system that was working quite well? Personally, I would have brought on Lambert. I'm not sure who you replace really to get the most of that. Maybe Rooney, maybe Sturridge, because obviously he did get that knock even if it was in the 80th minute. But no, I feel as if England didn't play badly. I feel as much as you said, maybe we didn't look quite as deadly later on in the game with some of the changes that we made. England, I don't want to say they didn't deserve to lose this game, but there's certainly a case that on another day England would have banged in a few of the chances they took. So on the changes front, yes, you could have brought on Lambert, but I think a lot of this is kind of hindsight, and it's a wonderful thing. Yeah,
Jake, would you have changed anything on 70, for example?
It's hard. I mean, like you say, Lambert might have been a good option to bring on, just to get in between them, maybe rough them up a little bit, hold the ball up. Like I say, it didn't really change much, the changes that we did make, apart from maybe we kept the ball a little bit better, and that's about it really, which, yeah, obviously if you're bringing on 3 subs towards the end of the game, you want them to impact it in a bigger way than that.
Yeah, on 60, you could see, I don't know, like I was watching the game and all of a sudden I went, okay, I'll be that then, because you saw Italy have their bank of 4. They had 2 wide men. Yeah. Perlo and Verratti were sat there, and then they brought Motta on. Yeah. I was like, well, that's it then. I don't care what we do. That's going to be the game there, because they play in kind of a pentagon shape.
Yeah.
They have 5. It's pentagon 5-sided.
Yes, it is.
Right. So they're sorry, a little bit of maths.
Bit of key stage 2 maths.
Yeah, if you're doing your GCSEs or SATs, you're going to be loving that. So you have your pentagon, and then they'd have Perlo in the middle of it, and all they would do, pass it on the pentagon, give it to Perlo, who then unleashes someone, and then all passes it to the other side of the pitch, another pentagon, and they just play like that the whole time.
They try and suck you in as well.
Yeah, and then they hit you. Balotelli, there was one moment where Balotelli, that run that he did against England in the Euros, when he sort of goes to look for the short one, completely outfoxes Cahill, and suddenly you're thinking, he was offside, but you're thinking, he's in 15 yards of space there. What has just happened?
Yeah, but that worked in the Euros multiple times.
It did. But overall, we'll look at a few individual performances in a minute. I was quite happy. People were quite negative on Twitter and what have you, but I enjoy seeing England attack a team. I'm not bothered if we lose like that. I was a bit disappointed that we didn't have anything going in the last 20 minutes. But, Italy are a good side. We shouldn't just... We're saying, Italy aren't as good as they were 2 years ago. Not necessarily true. And we gave them a game. They know they were in a game yesterday. And 2 years ago, they didn't. And I think we have to remember that we're still a growing team with a lot of young players. I thought it was a curious decision when Sturridge got injured, because we'd done changes. We'd already taken Welbeck off, that really ended up getting pushed up as a striker. Would have liked to have seen that happen a lot sooner, kind of gone with the 2 up top. For a similar reason, because Welbeck went off in the 61st minute and Barkley came on, and I'm still not convinced Barkley's good out on the left. I'd much rather have Barkley down the middle. I know he had that little chance where he kind of shimmied inside on his right peg, and I think it got saved in the end. But I feel as if England have a lot of flexibility in the final third when it comes to how they set up.
and I feel as if they really didn't flex themselves and really look to change their system too much as the game went on. Which I kind of feel like they perhaps needed to do, but particularly as you mentioned, when you've got players like Motta coming on, it was quite apparent that Italy weren't going to look for that other goal. They were going to look for the counter-attack, and I feel as if England just needed one or two more options in the box, because really, you think about the England chances that we had, it pretty much came from players in the attacking third kind of finding that yard of space, then swinging a foot at it, rather than the ball getting whipped in a manner like Italy's second goal with Balotelli getting his head on it.
Yeah,
okay. Last night were appalling, by the way. In the final 20 minutes of the final third.
I was going to say it was 1 out of 13 was completed in the game.
It was 1 out of 25.
Really?
Was it actually?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Wow. Well, it's a case of, is that down to bad crossing, or was that just because there wasn't actually anyone in the middle? Because as we mentioned, with 10 minutes left, Sturridge had gone off. You know, you have the likes of Rooney, Sterling isn't going to win anything in the air. Lallana and Barkley as well. You know, they're not particularly prominent players in the air. I feel like that was.
You can't play Rooney up front on his own because he drops. He drops deeper. So if you want to put in crosses, you need someone like a Lambert that's just going to sit on the last man and go and attack a ball.
Yeah, I agree. Shall we look at a few individual performances? I've got 4 names written down in our notes. We'll do it. We won't do it in that order though. We'll start with someone who comes under a lot of criticism because he does that thing. I actually turned off after 15 minutes because I made a pact that if he cut inside on his left, then I would be turning off. And after 15 minutes, the first time he did it, Glenn Johnson, stop it.
He switched to Radio 5 because of Phil Neville. That was actually the reason. It wasn't. Well, it was because he cut inside, but you'll think it was. Well, Radio 5 are going to have better commentary anyway.
Well, what do you think about Johnson? We haven't got anyone better. So what do we do? And people say put Milner out there. I'd rather play there myself.
Yeah.
Milner's great at doing a job. Right back, isn't it? No. He can do lots of things. Right back isn't one of them. So what do we think about Johnson? I think we mentioned before we came on, though, so I'm kind of just saying what I think, that we are looking for Johnson to make mistakes. And the same applies with Rooney, who we'll come on to. We're looking for him to make a mistake because we're all highlighting how bad he is. So when he does it, everyone goes, he's awful. And you will pay no attention to the good things he does. Yeah. But that said, he is still pretty dreadful.
I feel like yesterday he wasn't tested particularly defensively. Most of Italy's build-up play came down the right-hand side with Candreva and kind of the other options they had there. It was very rare that the Italians looked to exploit the left-hand side. I don't know if that was a conscious decision, but it kind of seemed to me as if Johnson did what was called upon. As you mentioned, a few times he cut inside, but I don't feel like he had the worst game ever, but then there wasn't too many occasions. I mean, maybe for the goal you could argue that the second goal him and Cahill should swap men's or whatever. But it's kind of like, I don't think he had a bad game today. I still don't feel like he's the perfect choice, but he's the best we have.
I thought he started well because I thought Italy did, like, the first few minutes come down his side and they didn't really get anywhere. He did well defensively the first few minutes. And then it's then they sort of realised, actually, we probably can't do anything down here. Let's try the other side. And that's where they were getting more done. And, they kept going at that side for the rest of the game.
I want to look at Rooney last. So I want to talk about Welbeck because I actually thought Welbeck did a really good job. I think he holds shape for England excellently well. We were criticising Rooney about doing it on the left, and it seemed to me like Welbeck was playing on the right. And that is an argument. We've just talked about Glenn Johnson, actually. That is probably why Italy thought, forget.
He was covering as well. He was giving him good cover.
Yeah, and he's very vital to England's shape. He may not be the most exciting player, but not every team has every player being exciting. You need someone to hold the shape, be out wide, have a little bit of pace. He's not the most spectacular player, but he's important to England right now.
I like Welbeck playing not up front. I think for England he scored 8 goals in 25 games, and his last goal was in September of last year. And of his 8, half of them were against Moldova and San Marino. But I like Welbeck just playing that kind of out wide. I don't think he's got kind of that cross of quality, perhaps. But I think in terms of his ability to cut inside, I feel as if he had a little bit more permission going forward, and I feel like he was a little bit conscious of the space behind him. But I feel as if he kind of just let himself go a little bit more and really look to push on when the opportunity arises, he could be a very good player from that kind of position. I kind of feel like with England, they're kind of playing a few players out of position for a compromise, looking at kind of Rooney, for example. But I feel like Welbeck adapted well to the role that he was called upon yesterday.
Indeed. Shall we look at certainly England's man of the match? Raheem Sterling was standout. And we mentioned him earlier with his chance that we all thought had gone in.
Yeah.
But Jake, what did you think? How impressed were you by the 19-year-old?
Very impressed. He was just going past people like they weren't there. It's like he went down with cramp. He had it stretched out in both legs. He got up, looked quite ginger. He went past two people as if they weren't even there still, at like half pace. Look, one of them was Perlo as well, by the way. And he just made him look ridiculous. And he, unfortunately, his end product let him down again. But yeah, he was just very exciting to watch, and we need a bit more of that, I think.
Jack?
I think there were a few question marks about whether or not he should start, and I think he kind of answered those. I think there were maybe a few people who looked at him and go, well, maybe we've got a few other options. But I think for me, he was England's best player by a way, and I kind of feel like he's the kind of player at this World Cup I don't feel like England are expected to do amazingly, and so to give him opportunities to play on a competitive stage against the likes of Italy, to put in performances like we saw today, like he's matured so much this year for Liverpool. And he really showed what he did for Liverpool, which is something that I don't feel as if he'd done prior to this game in the manner that he did yesterday. But he just looked so lively, and the Italians just looked a bit confused as to how to deal with him. And if kind of Uruguay going into that game, they are going to have to mark him well. And Uruguay do not have a fast defence, and I think he's going to get more joy that game.
Yeah,
I think, sorry to interrupt, but for that Uruguay game, it might be worth moving out to the left because their right back has just been suspended, so it's not going to be their first choice right back anymore, and he's quite a good player, so it might be worth swapping him over the wing.
The thing I like about Sterling is he's just fearless. He knows what he's doing. He goes about it the right way. He gets the ball. He looks to beat a man. It seems obvious, but the fact he does it so regularly and so consistently, and he more often than not, he beats his man. Mm-hmm. Like I love seeing a player who's young and just attacking, and for me it's absolutely vital he starts games, because he's not the sort of player that will come on and continue to perform throughout the game if he's brought on, say, on 70. I don't like that, because I think you waste him. I think if you get him in the game, gets a foot in the game, knows exactly who he's playing against, knows what space he can find, rather than having to have 20 minutes as a teenager saying, right, where's the best place for me to be? Like he'll know after 10 minutes where he can be, and then he can influence the entire game based on that. That's why I think it's vital he starts.
The thing that I loved about him yesterday was the fact he was one of the first players to go down with cramp. He worked his bloody ass off. That's one thing that's annoyed me about Rooney at club level this year, and even a little bit.
Don't get me started on cramp, please. Please. I think it's ridiculous for a professional footballer on £100,000 a week, with all the facilities that these professional clubs have. You know, you've got Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man United. How can you go down with cramp in a normal football match in your first game in the World Cup?
See, I don't feel like cramp. For me, cramp is a sign that a player's put in a f***ing shift. Pardon my French, I will edit that. But it's a sign that a player has really kind of tried his balls off for the team. I think Sterling covered so much ground. And yes, he went down with cramp. And yes, you kind of sat there thinking, well, why the hell has he got cramp? But Sterling was the one man in the 90th minute who absolutely hunted down the ball. Admittedly, he did give away a foul, but he chased the length of the pitch. Obviously, Perlo hit the crossbar from the resulting free kick. But that kind of level of effort is just something you don't see from Wayne Rooney in a Manchester United or England shirt. He's the first one to get complacent. I think it was on maybe the Welbeck or Gerrard penalty kind of decision that wasn't. I think it might have been the Welbeck one. Was it Welbeck? But the ball didn't go out of play. And rather than turn around, Rooney was the closest player to the ball. He turns to the ref, charged into his face and starts shouting for the penalty.
Yeah,
it's like, get on with it.
You've touched on Rooney. We've been known to slag him a little bit. I'm still not sure what to do with him.
Can we start with the good? Just because I know people could say he put in a fantastic ball today. We touched upon it. That goal that England scored, it was a great ball by him. He put it on a sixpence. He couldn't have put it in a better spot for Sturridge to score. But besides that, he was very quiet.
He's a victim of his own quality, in my book, because he plays on the left because he's capable of doing it to an extent. Is he the best person in that position? Probably not. I'd probably rather see Lallana there, because I think he's a far more comfortable player there, and I'm sure he'd work with Baines more there. You mentioned playing 4-4-2. You could even play the system he played yesterday. That then begs the question, where does Rooney fit? Do you drop Sterling? Not after what we saw yesterday. Do you drop Welbeck? Maybe, because it's evident from yesterday that Rooney can have a moment of quality, which produces a goal. But he's still for me. And I'm looking at him very closely because he's our talisman. He's expected to do something. He's not doing enough. He's not working hard enough. I don't know what he's been asked to do by Roy, but I still feel like he needs to do more. Jake, what do you make of Wayne Rooney?
It's hard because at international tournaments he doesn't really seem to produce, which is a shame. I think he was playing a bit out of position yesterday, which obviously didn't help. but everyone knows that he's got that moment of magic in him where he can just produce something out of nothing. It's like yesterday, he picked the ball up and ran past a few players, had a shot, wasn't too far wide. I'd like to see him do that a little bit more, because you don't really see that from him enough, I don't think. But yeah, I think he was playing out of position, very quiet. Maybe the wrong choice to play yesterday.
Okay, well, that's England somewhat covered. Shall we get on to the Twitter question of the week?
Yeah.
Or the day. Sorry, Jack. Day.
The day, thank you. I was about to snap.
Yeah, I know you were. So I asked Twitter, Wayne Rooney isn't that good at playing on England's left. What real-world job would he be good at, and why? I asked you boys pre-recording to think of an answer, so we'll start with our guest again. What would you have Rooney doing?
I'd have him as a cinema steward, just ripping off the tickets and going, just screen over there, mate. That's it. That's all he'd do.
Okay. Jack?
I'd have him be a caddy, because then he's not responsible for putting the ball where it needs to be.
Oh, that is awful to say. Let's look at Twitter then. They've come up with some good ones. Harvey said bailiff. There's no more to that. He's just gone with bailiff. We've got a lot of people saying he could do an animated green character for Pixar. Well, it's not Pixar, is it? DreamWorks. I think they're referencing Donkey. Bin Man. We've got a lot of people saying he could be in a care home because he'd look after the ladies lovely and they'd look after him. A few of you said that. Fisherman. We've seen the Nike advert. Like, we know he's got the skills. Dan said a dinner lady. But he'd join in during the football. Like they're playing at playtime, wouldn't they? Yeah. He'd be well up for that.
Can I just say that my favourite one is from Forgot My Username, and he drag racing because there aren't any corners, and I didn't want to touch upon that corner.
Don't
bring me on for that corner. As far as I'm concerned, I could have put it in a better area. I think.
Does anyone know how much money Rooney's on a week?
It's like 300k. I think it's a little bit less. Like obviously taxes and whatever.
I don't need to say anything more. How can you not take a corner on 300 grand a week?
I'm going to finish with Absolute Villain, who said door-to-door salesman selling anti-balding hair gel. It's worked.
Brilliant.
We slag him off, but he looks pretty good. So, you know, maybe I'm going to get some. I'm going to get some from like my legs, my upper thigh. Just going to spread some on there. Just have ridiculously hairy thighs.
Breast.
Well, you know.
What a terrifying image that's just been painted in my mind.
Well, you know, I'll take a picture. I'll cut some off my hair and I'll stick it on my leg and I'll send you it. Right. Let's look ahead we'll briefly look at it because we've covered England in detail and obviously we'll cover the games that we're about to talk about tomorrow. So we'll briefly talk about what we think will happen in today's games. It's Switzerland, Ecuador, France, Honduras, and Argentina versus Bosnia. We'll start with Switzerland, Ecuador. The Swiss side, another dark horse, another Colombia. But they're playing a very physical Ecuador team, as England found out. So where do we think, Jake? What do we think? What's your prediction? We'll just do some predictions. How's that?
I think Switzerland will win. I think they've got some good players going forward. I'm going to go 3-1.
All right. Jack, what do you think about the Swiss-Ecuador game?
Switzerland, very good team. Bit of pedigree. You know, you'd have to say they have some players who are very underrated, and they showed last World Cup that they can be very good on an international stage where they... did they beat Spain? I want to say they beat Spain.
They beat Spain?
Beat someone, yeah.
They did. Exactly. They beat Spain. I think that was the only defeat Spain had in that entire tournament. Well, it would have been Gett because they got to the final and won. But no, Switzerland are very good. And I expect, despite Ecuador's physicality, I feel when they played England, they didn't look like they had that much about them. Whereas look at the Swiss team, it's not the youngest side, but it's an exciting side. There's lots of prospects there, players who maybe haven't quite made it or kind of distinguished themselves from the pack. And I think this could be a good tournament for Switzerland. I expect them to go out their group, and I'm going to go with 3-1.
All right, I will go 4-0. Let's have 4-0. France, Honduras, no worry. Do have Benzema, Pogba. Good defensive line that we spoke about during our previous show. Jack, what do you think then? France, are they going to walk this?
I think it's going to be a very good game. I could see this being one of the rare clean sheets of the tournament. Honduras, they looked okay, but I don't kind of pre-tournament. But France just have so much quality that I can't remember. They beat a team by miles just before the tournament. I can't remember. It was 8-0. Was it against Jamaica?
Yeah.
I want to say there was. They looked very good. I saw the highlights of that. Just their attacking movement was amazing. They looked like they had a balance about them. Yes, it was against Jamaica. Yes, this is Honduras. It's a slight difference in class, but I expect to see France run out 5-0 wins.
Jakey?
3-0 France.
Excellent. I will say 1-0 France. Ooh. Now, for me, the most exciting game of the day is the Argentina versus Bosnia match. I don't know about you boys, but I'm looking forward. I think a lot of people will see Bosnia's name and they'll go, oh, cannon fodder. No. Bosnia, very good side. Very underrated. A bit like Switzerland, a bit like Colombia, that sort of team that they're going under the radar a little bit. Might not be the worst thing for them. But then we do look at the Argentine front line: Messi, Higuain, Aguero, Di Maria. This could be an upset, or it could be a demolition job.
I think there's going to be goals. I think there's going to be goals. I want to say there's going to be goals. It's going to be the first 0-0 now I've said that. But Argentina, we touched upon this in the preview, immense attack. But defensively, there's a lot of questions to be asked. Obviously, Di Michaelis didn't have the worst season at Manchester City. He got a lot of kind of stick. He stepped up his game for the second half of the season. But it's going to be a real test against the likes of Dzeko, who he's going to know what to expect from Dzeko from training at Man City. Pjanic, I think Bosnia are going to get goals. I think there's going to be goals. I hope there's going to be goals more than anything, because it is the 11 o'clock kickoff. Hopefully Phil Neville's not kind of commentating it, but if he isn't, hopefully Messi and Co can wake us up. I think this is going to be the first kind of real test for Argentina. Both these teams kind of expected, I guess, to get out of their groups. It's definitely going to be one of these games which really kind of shapes up how this group goes, and whichever team loses, there's going to be a little bit of pressure on them going into their second game in the stages.
So what do you think the score will be?
3-3.
Oh, Jake?
I'm going to go 3-2.
2?
Argentina. I just think they've got a lot of quality up front. And will Messi perform? Very much like the Wayne Rooney of England.
I think this is Messi's tournament. I think Messi's going to absolutely rip this tournament apart. They've got, is it Iran and Nigeria in their group?
Yeah, they have.
If Messi, I would be hard pressed to find someone with a better chance of getting Golden Boot than Messi this year, because he's now Argentina's captain. He's in terrific form for them. As I mentioned, Bosnia are a good side. Dzeko's one of the top scorers in European qualifying, so they obviously play around him. But I am very excited to see this Argentinian team really perform. Hopefully they're not. Actually, well, if they are tragic at the back, it would be entertaining. But yeah, I'll go with a 2-0. 2-0 Argentina. Right then.
I think,
go on.
Can I just say, for me, there's a few names in this World Cup who have got something to prove. Because you think of the best players in history, or those kind of all-time legends, you can put Messi and Ronaldo in that list. But you kind of think of the likes of Maradona, Pele. They're players who have proved themselves at World Cups, and I think this is one of Messi's chances really to prove himself. And given the group they've been handed, he's got to perform. Yeah. He's got to. There's an expectation, and can he handle that pressure? Because he's not had that much pressure on him. Obviously, there is a degree of pressure, and he's thrived under it in Spain. But I feel like the pressure of a World Cup is on a different level to that.
Do you know,
and the expectation in Argentina with a South American World Cup, it's going to be interesting to see how himself and the rest of the Argentina side kind of perform under it.
Yeah, I was just thinking yesterday, how incredible would a Portugal-Argentina final be?
Oh, amazing.
Ronaldo or Messi get to complete their dynasty. That would be something. Anyway, we all know what it's time for. Some people only tune in for this. It's time for the ForTheFans quiz.
Yes. We need a theme tune. Someone get on that.
Jake, are you aware of the rules?
I believe so, yeah.
Right.
Before, I think.
I've got my very handsome assistant with the timer.
I am the Carol Vorderman of this.
Ellie's nowhere to be seen.
Got a bikini on.
Are you ready then, Jack?
Wait, what?
That's an image.
Give us a countdown.
I'm ready. 3, 2, 1, go.
Where is this year's World Cup being held?
Brazil.
Who has the most World Cup wins?
Brazil.
Cafu captain which country to the World Cup glory?
Brazil.
If the answer isn't Brazil, what is the question?
Who's not hosting the World Cup this year?
Incorrect. It was anything related to the World Cup. I wear swimming goggles. I'm Dutch. I'm a former Juventus player. Who am I?
Edgar Davids.
Correct. Will England win the World Cup this year?
No.
Correct. Who is the top scorer in World Cups?
Ronaldo.
Correct. France will argue during this World Cup, bringing shame to their nation. Ooh. You don't get to do it, I'm afraid. The question was, France will argue during their World Cup, bringing shame to their nation. True or false?
False.
Nah, true. They definitely will. Every year. And that brings us to the end of the quiz. Jake, let me toss it up. You two talk while I do this.
Hi, Jack.
Hi, I think you've just equalled my score. So you got 5. I think one of them was wrong. I accidentally gave him 5 seconds, Ben. Get rid.
Whoa, come on.
You got 6 right.
Boom.
So he goes level at the top of the leaderboard.
Oh, man.
With Jack.
What happens if we have a tie? with our guests.
We come back for a head-to-head.
Penalty shootout.
I break. Yeah. Okay, well done.
Well done, Jake.
That was very good.
It was a good quiz. I enjoyed that one.
Okay. Tune in tomorrow for the quiz.
Yeah, who have we got on tomorrow? We've got on Calfreezy, haven't we?
We have.
So you've got that to look forward to tomorrow. I think that's us done. I think we're done. I'm looking through, and I think we're finished. It's been a good episode, though. Longer episode focusing on England. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Jake, have you got any final words for the viewers?
No, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Worries.
It's been a pleasure having you on.
Ben, plug the socials.
Right, we are ForTheFansShow.com. On that website, you'll find our Twitter link, which is @ForTheFansShow. YouTube, ForTheFansShow. iTunes, type in For The Fans. We're there. You'll find us. We're on all the sports charts. We're doing fantastically well. And thank you for supporting the show. It's certainly a nice reward for our work. Right, it's me, Ben. I'm out.
It's
him, Jack.
I'm out.
And from our guest, who gets the final word of this show.
I'm out.